And so I come to my fourth and my last answer to the devil at this point, which is this. A temptation only becomes sin when we accept it, when we fondle it, when we enjoy it. Then it becomes sin. The suggestion itself is not sin. The temptation is not sin. The feeling of desire is not sin, but to accept it and to enjoy it and to fondle it, that is sin. Now there is the vital point where we must ever draw this distinction. The thing itself is not sin, but the acceptance of it and the enjoyment of it is definitely sin. Very well, then, says someone, how can I tell which it is? Well, I want to try to be practical and helpful. I'm going to suggest certain tests to you, which we can always apply to ourselves, which will always enable us to do this very thing. Here are the tests. Do you have a consciousness that these things, the thoughts and the imaginations and the desires, come to you? What I mean by that is this. Do you not find sometimes that these thoughts, imaginations and so on, come to you perhaps the first thing when you wake up in the morning, before you've started to think actively at all and are not fully awake, perhaps they've arrived. Well, they're not yours. You haven't been thinking. You haven't had time to think. They've already come. In other words, they're coming from outside. These are the fiery darts of the wicked one, the evil one. Haven't you found very often, perhaps when you've been reading the Bible, these thoughts come? Well, they're not yours. You were concentrating on reading the Bible. Perhaps when you've been on your knees in prayer, blasphemous thoughts may have come, or some ugly, foul something. It's not yours. If you are concentrating on your prayer, your Bible reading, or it doesn't matter what it is, and you're aware that these things have come to you, that's a sure proof always that it isn't you. That is the devil. And it's a very important distinction. That is precisely what the devil does. At the most unexpected moments, you find this will happen to you, but recognize it immediately, and instead of being depressed, say, but I was concentrating on this, and they came to me. Well, that's quite right. They do come to you. We put it, do we not, in other realms and in other spheres, and we all seem to be quite clear about it. You say, it suddenly occurred to me. What you mean is this. You say, I really wasn't thinking about the thing at all. I wasn't working it out. I wasn't trying to demonstrate. But while I was doing something else, it suddenly dawned upon me or came to me. Very well. Now, it's in some similar way to that the devil insinuates these thoughts, brings the suggestion, hurls it at you. And so it's a very vital point to be able to recognize that these things do come to you instead of being a part of you. But then I would put as a second test this one. Can you say quite honestly that you hate them? That you regard them as evil? And that you regard them with utter hatred? Now, these may seem to some of you to be trivial matters, but I can assure you that these simple questions have often been the means of delivering tormented souls. I could give you dozens of illustrations of this. I've known people in acute agony. I give you one example only to illustrate my point and to show you the necessity for doing this sort of thing in detail. I remember a lady who was a very active church worker. She was the superintendent of the Sunday school in her church. She was a very good singer herself and was very good at teaching children to sing and so on. And suddenly she dropped it all and was in great distress. Why? Well, she was plagued by evil thoughts, blasphemous thoughts, and felt she wasn't a Christian. She wasn't fit to do any Christian work. She'd resigned from everything. Nobody could persuade her. And she really was in an agony of soul and had been in that condition for some considerable time, for many weeks, and was now becoming almost physically ill on top of it all. And all that was necessary with her was to put these simple points. I said, but wait a minute. Do you hate these things? I hate them with the whole of my being. She said, well, very well. I said, they're not yours. But you see, the devil had persuaded her that they were hers. She had the thoughts, therefore they must be hers. And I said, now here's the test. Do you hate them? Do you regard them as evil? Of course, she said. Then I went to my next point, the third, which is this. Do you long to be rid of them? She said, I'd give the whole world if I could only stop it. Well, very well, I said. You see, it's happening to you. These things are coming to you. They're being hurled at you. I said, these are the fiery darts of the wicked one. It's not you at all. It's the devil, but he's persuaded you that it's you. And therefore, of course, your defenses are all down, and you're completely defeated. Now, you've got to recognize what is happening to you. If you can say that you hate them, that you long to be rid of them and delivered from them, and to be cleansed from them, and never to have to countenance them again, I say they're not yours. They don't belong to you. And then you add a last and a final point, which is a positive one, which is this. As you are tormented by these things, can you say quite honestly that you desire to know God? That your chief desire is to know God and to love Him and to serve Him and to ever be to the praise of the glory of His grace? Can you say, just as you are, that your greatest desire is to be a true child of God and to know Him and to enjoy Him? If you can. I care not what the thoughts nor imaginations nor anything else may be. You are a child of God. And you are just being troubled and trapped and deceived by the wiles of the devil.